Welcome to the Swazzle Puppet Studio. I am Sean, and we have a really exciting live for you today. Today, I'm going to show you all of the steps that you need to take, plus the materials you need to create puppet eyes just like these. Now, many of you who follow us on YouTube and watch our videos know that traditionally we make our puppet eyes using vacuum plastic, and we've done quite a few videos showing that process. This is the first time we've ever shown this process because, to be honest, until 2 days ago, we had never made puppet eyes like this. But we wanted to give it a try. We are very happy with the results, and now we want to show you what we learned and how to do it, and really how easy it is using one of these smooth-on kits. So this is what it looks like when it's all done. But ultimately, what we are making are these. Now these are special because we have the eye here, and then on the back of the eye we have this nylon bolt so that we can attach the eyes into the head. I'm going to show you how you do that. All right, so first up, let's talk materials. This is the Smooth-On mold making and casting kit. So we went ahead and ordered this. You can order it online. I'm going to open it up and show you what all is in here, even though I've already opened it and used these materials, but at least give you a sense of what it's like when you order the kit, and you can kind of see what all is included. I'll also go over materials that they suggest that are not included in the kit. So what does this come with? It comes with the quick start instruction manual, how to make mold booklet, the super sealer agent, the ease release, and then we're using the silicone rubber, and then the casting resin or the liquid plastic. So when it comes in a really awesome all-inclusive box like this. This is like their starter kit, basically. Starter kit, yep. Pourable starter kit. So let's open it up and see what this kit comes with. They show all the different materials. How you can use this stuff for candle making, concrete casting, hobbies, RC models, prototypes, and of course, puppet eyes. All right, so first let's start. This is really cool. So if you don't know anything about mold making, they have this mold making and casting guide. And this is something that I really recommend you just look through. It has all of the variety of materials, processes, and things, how to make a whole variety of molds. It's essentially a textbook. And this comes with your box. So this is a really, really helpful resource. I'm gonna put it aside for now, but definitely if you get this kit, look through this book. The other thing that's super helpful it comes with is the quick start instructions. And I'm actually going to be using these quick start instructions to show you how to do this mold making process. They lay it out. It's just about as clear as you can imagine, with all these clear images. And if you have never done anything like this before, this pretty much walks you through the whole process. They also have, I'll just point your attention to some of the, dangers, flammability, eye irritant, caution. Whenever you're using materials like silicones or plastics or anything you're mixing or pouring, you always want to follow all manufacturer safety instructions. So this is an essential guide that will walk you through the whole process. So what else is in your kit? All right, it comes really clearly packaged. So here is the silicone that we're going to use for the mold making process. What's great about this kit is it is a equal part A-B kit. So you don't have to get out a scale. You don't have to do, it's not complicated to measure. It's half and half. And they also make it super simple by making one blue package, and that would be one part, and here is the second component, and it is in the yellow package. No confusion there. So really, really well packaged. So this is the silicone. This is part A. This is part B. Okay, that's part of it. Then also they have this other handy dandy box in here, and this is going to be the casting plastic. Again, it's a part A and a part B, and it is equal parts. So here's part A in the yellow, and it says right on the thing, bright white liquid plastic. We are using white because we're making eyes. But what's interesting is you can also tint this as well. And then here's part B of the bright white plastic. All right, so that's the second part. It also comes with these two agents. So one is called Super Seal, and it's the sealing agent for mold making, and we'll get to how we use that. And this is Ease Release, and this is a releasing agent, and we'll get to how we use that. And then these are sealed, right? When it comes in the package, these are all wrapped up in plastic, sealed. They have their own safety instructions and everything. And then they have these little spray bottle tops, which you can use for the application. And what I did, just so I don't mix them up, is I just went ahead and put a black dot on this one, and that tells me it goes with this blue one. So I just know these always go together, so I'm not mixing the sprayers. So that's what comes in the kit. That's everything that comes in the kit. And the cool thing is, except for what you want to mold and some of the other things, that's what you need. It's like everything you need. So what I'm going to do is show you some of the other elements that you need. So once again, this is the finished result. This is what we're going for. These are going to be our puppet eyes. Now what's cool about this is you have little eyes like this. You have these big saucer eyes. We have this oval. The limit to what you can actually make with this casting kit is unlimited. We're making puppet eyes today. You can make anything. You can make belt buckles. You can make, trinkets or medals or badges or props. No limit. The only limit's your imagination. So I'm going to go ahead and put these finished eyes aside for now. We will get to these later. So let's talk about the other things that you're going to need. Oh, I would say one more thing. And it's all laid out in the instructions, but certain steps in this process take time. Set your timer and follow those instructions. What you don't want to do is rush this process. Now, for your benefit, I've advanced certain things past a few different steps. You'll see I already have some finished molds. I already have an item ready to mold. I have an item ready to demold. And then I have an item that I haven't even made the form of the mold yet. So I'll take you through all the steps, but don't worry, I'm not going to make you wait 6 hours while this cures. We'll go ahead and pour it in here, and then we'll jump right ahead to this step. But just so you know, when we get into the casting plastics and the mold releases and stuff, there are time limits. The nice thing is, it's all laid out in the instructions. Just like, making a new recipe you've never made before, really pay attention. Give these a quick read before you start, because you don't want to get into a situation where now you're, I need gloves now, I don't have them. So what else do you need that your kit doesn't come with? Okay, so in order to make your actual mold, first you want the thing you're going to mold. What is it that you're making? So this is going to be the eye we're going to use as Kate. So this is the eye shape that we're opting for, kind of this oval, flattish on the bottom eye shape. So what I did is I took a plaster shape, a shape I created with plaster. We do cover this in other parts of our channel when we talk about making eye bucks. So all I did is I took this and I sanded it and I shaped it and I used our artwork as inspiration to get what I feel is the final eye shape. So you need the thing you're going to mold. Okay. Then you want to be able to essentially make a little enclosure to keep the mold. You can do all sorts of things, paper cups, but I just thought, you might be making something of unusual size, so I'll show you how we made a custom one. So in order to do that, you'll need cardboard, pencil, something to cut the cardboard with, like an X-Acto, and then a ruler. The next thing you'll need to do is, eventually this will need to be secured in to your enclosure here. You don't want this sliding around as the silicone cures over 6 hours. So you'll need a hot glue gun here and hot glue. And this also comes in handy when we're building this box. The other thing I noticed is as I was spraying the mold release in the super seal, it's like an aerosol. So I went ahead and just grabbed one of these, just a dust mask, just so I'm not breathing in that aerosol spray. You'll want some gloves, latex, nitrile, whatever is comfortable for you, because you don't want any of this stuff to get on your hands. I have some paper towels, just in case we need to do some cleanup. We'll need containers to mix our components in. So I'm just using these plastic party cups. You can use pretty much anything. You can use cups you buy. You can recycle items from your recycle bin. And you'll need something to stir with. So I just got some plastic spoons. You can use mixers, whatever you want. Now, eventually, we're making eyes. And so instead of just doing a one-part plastic, we're actually going to put the plastic in 2 parts. And I'll explain all of this. But what you'll need if you want to make an eye like this is these nylon bolts. We use these for eyes all the time. They're great because they're lightweight, they're sturdy, and what you can do is really draw that eye into the head. So if you're going to follow this process, you'll need a nylon bolt, also the corresponding nylon nut that comes with, and then a washer or washers, depending upon how much you want to draw that eye in. We've taken to cutting our washers custom out of wood, just because a lot of times we need a specific size hole and a specific size, disc, and we don't want to use metal and nylon, and you don't have all the sizes, blah blah blah. So we just cut them out of wood the size that we want. And then for installing this, which we'll get to later, we're also going to be using like a Loctite super glue, and then the zip kicker. So it could be Zap, it could be whatever super glue that you want to use, and then a zip kicker. And then for final cleanup at the end, we have sandpaper. So 2 different types of sandpaper. This grit is a 60, and this grit is a much thinner, nicer, I don't know what it is. Anyway, much finer. So you want a coarse grit and you want a fine grit for fine cleanup work. And then I also have just a pair of junk scissors. I'm using this to cut the cups, but it's always good just to have scissors on hand. And these are not our nice fabric scissors. These are just our utility, cut cardboard, cut whatever you want with them. Another good thing to have. Okay, so that covers all of the materials. Now, during this process, there will be some time. So I'm hoping to not have to just use my phone as a timer, but I have this like a little 10-minute stopwatch, an hourglass, and then I have some other hourglasses too, which we can use to time things out. But my thought is, as things are curing, especially some of the quick cure plastic, we will have some time for questions. So if you have a question, please keep it in mind until I ask for questions, and then, or if something occurs to you, go ahead and put it in the chat, but we're not going to answer any questions until we get to the time when we have a little bit of time to kill, because we're waiting. Okay? So that's what we need. So now, let's get started. So, as I mentioned, the first thing we need to do is we need to make a little box so we can put the item that we are going to mold in. It needs to be able to contain the silicone. So this is the item that I'm going to mold. So the first thing I do is I'm going to make this out of cardboard. Like I said, you could use a paper cup, you could use whatever, but just in case you want to make something of an odd size, I thought it'd be good to show you how simple it is to make something like this. So you want to position the item that you want to mold within with enough space around that you have a substantial mold like this, but not so much space that you're wasting material. So the first one I made, I think I used a little too much silicone. But this is the first one. We were just experimenting. And then I realized, okay, I don't actually need that much around. Because this material does cost money. It's affordable, but not necessarily cheap. So you want to be resourceful and careful with your materials. So position your item, and I'm going to get a little ruler here and see, all right, how big is this? Looks like 3 inches would be a good size. So all I'm going to do is get myself a 3-inch square. Make sure that height still works. Let's see. I might make it a little smaller. Oops. Yeah, I'm going to go 2.5. Let's see if that still works. Split the difference. Alright, so we're 2 3/4 here. 2 3/4. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll go 2 3/4 this way too. Every little bit of silicone that you can save for another project is, I think, resourceful. Alright, so this is my square, so let me just make sure that this will fit. Yeah, that'll fit well in that space. So I'm just going to take a blade and cut this out carefully. I never use a sharp blade. I have a second piece of cardboard here just so I don't cut through my work surface. It's also important to know that despite this starting really clean, this process can get a little messy. So I would suggest perhaps setting up a secondary workstation where you can do this kind of work. That's why I'm working here at this folding table and not at my work desk, because I don't want the silicone and the plastics and stuff to mix with the fur and the fleece, and not only do I not want that getting into the silicone, I also don't want the silicone getting into the puppets. So now we need to figure out the height. Obviously this is not very high at all. Your height will vary depending upon what you're making. So you want it to be enough, but not too much. I'm going to say 1 1/4 is high enough. And since I'm making a little wraparound box, I'm going to trace the line this way so I can use the corrugation of the cardboard as a way to make the barrier easier. I'll show you what that means in a minute. So I'm going to go 1 1/4 inches. 1 1/4 here. And then I'm just going to trace out longer than I need. Geez, that was 1.5 inches. Yeah, that makes sense, and that's a little shorter. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to trace this. Make it longer than I need, which is fine. And then cut it. Oops. All right, and this I can just put aside for another day. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to mark where I'm going to score this so I can make basically the little dam walls they're going to keep in the silicone. So then I'm just going to use the ruler. This one happens to be a square, so I don't need to mark A or B or anything, but I'll mark that's 1 score, second score, this is the 3rd score, and this is the 4th score. 4 score. And then I can trim off the excess cardboard. We'll save that for another day. The other thing I have down here also is a trash can. This process, you make quite a bit of garbage, and it's really good to keep it off your work surface. So it's good to have a trash can ready where you can just kind of bust things away as it develops, otherwise you can end up with quite a pile. So now I'm just going to, where I make these lines, I'm just going to score it. I'm not cutting all the way through, I'm just scoring through one layer of the cardboard. And I should say this mold making process that I'm showing you is good for a mold that is flat on one side. And you'll see what I mean. So if you're going through a process where you're making something three-dimensional, that's a whole different process. So this is something intended to be something that's flat on the bottom. All right, but it's a good place to start. It's a good way to start. It does get quite a bit more complicated as you get into 3 dimensions. So then I can just take this and I can just fold where I scored. I'm keeping it as one piece. And then I can shovel this away. I'm going to bring out my glue gun, and I'm going to put a bead of glue all along here, and then I'm going to glue that around to make a box. Careful with glue guns, they're hot. All right, so now put in a bead of glue. Like so. And then just wrap this around. I'm going to hold that until the glue dries. And I'm going to put a little glue here where the two pieces are joining, because we don't want any of that silicone leaking out of our mold. And this is really simple process to to make a mold. I mean, depending on what you're molding, you could be you could do you can make real pretty complicated molds, but here all you need is just a square, half a box to be able to contain the silicone. We're gonna let that cool and dry. Okay, so the next thing is our buck, the thing that we're molding, is going to be into our box like so. And by the way, now we're into the instructions. So step 1. They want you to secure the original model to the bottom of the container with hot melt glue gun. It says you should have 1/2 inch clearance from the outer edge of the wall and the container. Okay, so that's what they're recommending, and I think we're about that zone, maybe a little less than that, but I would say 1/2 inch is great advice. So now I'm going to follow that to step 1. I'm going to glue. I'm going to smash down pretty hard. Try to get it as flat as possible. There will be a little bit of silicone that seeps up underneath that, but it'll be really easy to trim. Okay, so now you're ready to mold, and this is the one that's already in that process. That's what we were doing. Okay. Step 2. Apply a light mist. So this is the super seal agent. What this does is this puts a sealant on your cardboard, it puts a sealant on your plaster, everything, so that if there's any pores or anything like that, the silicone won't seep into the thing that you are trying to seal. All right, so it says step 2. Apply a light mist, super seal to the mold, and let it dry 5 minutes, and then let it dry. Let it dry 5 minutes, and then repeat. Great. So we're gonna do 5 minutes, and then we're gonna repeat. So I'm gonna use this because this aerosol spray is a little stinky. I just don't want to breathe it in. And I'm going to go ahead and put my gloves on as we start this process. Always a good idea. Now, one thing I noticed, and I don't know if this is by design, but with this particular kit, these spray bottle tops don't actually screw onto this. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's just something I noticed. So all I did is I hold them together. And then once I'm finished using it as a spray bottle, I just recap it with this to seal it. So here comes, see how it just clicks on. So this, the first thing I'm spraying, I'll double check it's the blue one. Everything's labeled blue Super Seal. And it says a light mist. So I'm going to take this and just like so. Make sure I get all sides. Same with here. Light mist. Okay. I'm going to take this off. We're finished with it. And resecure the bottle. It said 5 minutes. Here's my 3-minute timer for starters. All right, so I do want to emphasize the importance of not rushing from one step to the next. You want to make sure that if it says 5 minutes, you let it sit for 5 minutes. Because what's going to happen after this is we're going to apply again. So this is like a first coat, set it up for 5 minutes, then you spray again and let it set up for 20 minutes. And during that 20-minute time, I can show you a few other things about puppet eyes and then answer a few questions. But we are going to stay live even during that time. So just be aware. And then after we apply this, the next thing we're going to apply is this mold release. Very important not to mix them up. So the releasing agent is what will help the silicone pull right off the mold. I mean, eventually, what you're going to have is something like this. You can imagine that it's been created and it's been pulled and everything, and you take your buck out, and then you can eventually start making these eyes. Now, the cool thing about using this process is we're using these for Avenue Q now, but eventually we're going to be using these for all sorts of things. So as we start to gather different eye molds of different sizes, we'll just start collecting them, and then we can go through and say, oh, is this the size you want? Do you want this? Do you want that? And then also, let's say I wanted to vacuum form instead. What I could do is I could pour up some plastic, take that to the vacuum form, and then vacuum form it, and I have a buck for vacuum form. So that's that. So we have a few more minutes here, and then we'll spray again, and then at that point, after those 2 minutes pass, we'll go ahead and take any questions that folks have, preferably around puppet eyes, and then we'll let that 20 minutes pass before we get to the mold release. All right, I get to bring my 1 minute timer out now. I just use these because they're visual. You guys can watch with me as the time is ticking away. All right, so then we got 2 more minutes with that. One thing I want to emphasize, something that makes this kit such a great starter kit, is it is a 50-50 kit. So the advantage of that is I've used other foam kits before, or mixing kits, and they require like a scale, like like a gram scale, because you want to do like, oh, it's this volume to that volume, and you have to do it just so, and it makes it a lot more careful work. The really cool thing about this kit is their silicone kit, one component is pink and one component is blue. So there's no question as to whether or not it's mixed. And like it says, you just mix until it's purple. And that's a super clear way to indicate it's ready for you to use. So they really have designed this, was last minute, they really designed this kit to be just about as user-friendly as you would want it to be. All right, so I'm gonna get my mask on, so I'm gonna prepare to spray some more of that sealer. Now they suggest a light mist, and I think what I notice is as it when it goes on, you sort of see it almost like a little lumpy, but as it starts to cure, it all smooths out. I have a feeling that if you put it on too heavy, that might not necessarily be the case. So you definitely want to, again, just put a light mist of the sealer. So this is the Super Seal, sealing agent. I'm going to go ahead, pop my spray nozzle back on, and time. So now we're going to spray this another coat, kind of turning the mold, making sure I get full coverage. Light mist. That'll be 20 minutes. That's my 15-minute timer. Take this off. Reseal. And for today's purposes, we're finished with the Super Seal agent. Whew. This stuff is pretty stinky. All right, so at this point, if anyone has any questions so far, we'll entertain any questions regarding our puppet eyes. I'm going to take this off in just a minute, wait for this smell to fade, and I'm also going to take my gloves off, so I'll need to switch to some cleaner gloves. Time to use a paper towel.
All right, a couple of questions and comments have come in. First of all, we have just someone saying hello.
Hello.
Someone else says thank you for doing this with a heart. Someone else says super cool. Someone else says hi, I'm new.
Oh.
So greetings, hello, and welcome.
Yes, welcome to anyone who's new. Welcome to folks who are joining us or returning. Patrick is behind the camera today helping me out. And just for folks who are joining, this is a live. We've been doing more of these live puppet building videos. We've been getting some great responses, and so we thought we would do more of them. So I'm putting on another pair of gloves to get ready for the next process.
Now some questions.
Yes.
Any 3D printing, or do I, in such mass quantities, molding in vacuum form, is that better?
Great question. So all depends on what you're making. Now, we actually don't have a 3D printer, but we have some really fantastic puppet builders and makers that we collaborate with for some 3D printing elements. Now, the cool thing is, if you needed to mass produce something, what you could do is make your prototype by doing three-dimensional 3D printing. Yes, 3D stands for three-dimensional. You could 3D print your prototype. Then you could use that to create a silicone mold and eventually make duplicates. So we like this process because ultimately, when you get down to this phase, this is the non-cleaned up version, but it only takes 20 minutes. So to quick cast plaster, the mold making takes more time, but once your mold is made, the actual replication goes much faster. And these 4 that are here and those other eyes that I showed you at the beginning, those are eyes I made this morning prior to starting this live. So once your mold is made, this process goes quite quickly.
Here's a question. How do you make sure that vinyl pupils fully adhere to the eye surface so they don't fall off? Thanks for the help.
That's a great question. So for folks who follow us or have seen our videos in the past, you'll know that the what we use for our puppet eyes is vinyl stickers, and we laser cut those stickers so we can make them any size we want. So the vinyl that we use it's called permanent, and so far we have found that it sticks really well. In fact, it's more difficult to remove a vinyl sticker than it would be for it just to fall off accidentally. So those vinyl stickers really stick. I mean, you have to like scrape it off. So yeah, so far. Now I actually haven't tried it on this plastic though, and we'll experiment. If for some reason I find it's not sticking, then what I might do is take a little bit of sandpaper, rough out the surface, then it should stick fine. And by sandpaper I mean super fine. But I have a feeling that this vinyl is going to stick really well to this plastic.
All right, we have someone else saying hello.
Hello, thank you for joining. For people who are just joining us and they're wondering, why is this guy sitting here with a 15-minute timer in front of him? Let me bring you up to speed. We're making puppet eyes today. Eventually, I'll show you, what this will be when it's all said and done. So this is one of our Nikki puppet heads for a new set of Avenue Q rental puppets we're making. If I go ahead and put my hand inside, at the back of the eye, there is a bolt. Oh, I tighten this one down, good. Okay. A bolt and some washers. I actually use 2 washers because these particular nylon screws, bolts, they have a little non-threaded area. So that's it helps to make sure the bolt is fully threaded. So eventually, this is what it's going to be. Here's the eye. You can see here's the eye hole, and inside I've got 2 washers, double them up, and then I have a bolt. So then if I want to attach this eye to the puppet, this is the finished eye, then it will go right through this hole, and then it'll get bolted into place so that eye is not going anywhere. It's not coming off. It's not falling off during a show. That would not be good. And so far, we've had really great success with this nylon bolt. And this is even more secure because that bolt is fully embedded into the plastic. It's sandwiched between 2 layers of plastic. So I can just put the eye right through that hole into the head, like so. And then inside I position the washers over the bolt and that nut, which I could show you inside here, but like a lipstick cam or something. And I can just hold the nut and spin the eye, or spin the nut. Get it nice and tight as you want, like so. And then you see it's all attached. That's the eye.
We have some more questions here. Would you say this method of making eyes is better and more durable, or is it just more efficient?
Great question. So the reason why we're using this method for our Avenue Q eyes is, although there is more time spent in preparation as far as making the molds, it will eventually become a faster process. So what I mean is, if I make, bring a bunch over. So here is my, my Nikki eyes, right? Eventually, we're going to need a whole bunch of Nikki puppets. It's like 4 total, so it's like 8 eyes. So I can just say, okay, here's one set, pour it, here's another set, pour it, and you kind of get a little bit of an assembly line going. And once we pull this mold out, which I'll reveal to you later, this is going to be for Lucy and the Bears. This one's going to be for Kate, and this one here is going to be for Trekkie. So once we get all of these lined up, I'll be able to pour plastic, 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 let all of that cure for 20 minutes, and then pop them out and do the next one. So essentially, once the mold making process is done, I could have all of the eyes made in under a day. Also, we really like it because it's super secured to this post, because the post is embedded in the plastic, and ultimately these puppets are for theaters and high schools and people who might be operating puppets for the first time. So we want to make sure that we're making something as user friendly as possible. So that is our thinking behind using this process.
Question here.
Yes.
I imagine this will be good for making eyelids for mechs. Make a mold for the eye and the lid by vacuum forming over it. Can you vacuum form over plastic is the question.
Well, we have to try that. But I do know that all of you started as a as a plaster buck. And the good thing is, once this is done, you can still retain the plaster buck. So can you vacuum form over the plastic? We'll try that. But for now, I know for sure you can vacuum form over the plaster. So so the truth is, you have a perfect plastic eye, and then you can, yes, vacuum form like a lid or something to go right on top of that.
Vacuum form the plaster though, not the plastic, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to try. But I would say we know for sure vacuum forming plaster does work and is successful.
Are there any other materials you can cast with, like making rubber noses for puppets?
So so this particular kit is for the plastic. If you go to Smooth On's website, they have any number of casting kits that you can imagine. You can get plaster casting kits, you can get latex plastic casting kits, you can get all sorts of things. So yes, noses, anything. You could make anything, and even three-dimensional shapes. But that requires a few different steps to get a three-dimensional shape in here. I mean, they sell any casting you can imagine. And like I said at the very top, what's so great about this particular kit is it comes with this this here how to make molds and casting, and live to tell about it. That's funny. So flexible molds, but they got box kits. I'm seeing a starter kit. So they have a brush-on starter kit. Okay, where the pourable starter kit. That's what we're using. They have a life casting starter kit, and then there is you can also watch their YouTube video if you really get stumped by these instructions. But I would say their instructions are really, really straightforward and really easy to use. This is interesting. In the kit itself, they have kind of like a flow chart. So you go, okay, here's where I'm starting. My original model, and they can be made of any material. And then they say you want to build a containment frame. These are the general steps. You want to apply the sealer. You want to add a release agent. And then they have all of these different steps that you might do. You mix the rubber, you can pour over, you pour over, you allow it to cure overnight, 6 hours, you demold, and then you make reproductions. It's ready to go. So this is like the simple flow chart, one page of how to use the system that we're using. But they have other systems as well. So this would be the brush-on mold here. And then it says polyurethane mold. So are you making it with water-based clay? Then you want to use this sealant. You want to apply this rubber. Is it sulfur-based? You want to use this. If it's sulfur-free, if it's this. If it's wax, you want to do this. So honestly, this whole particular, here's how to select a releasing agent for casting. So this, honestly, the this kit is worth just getting this pamphlet. I mean, they say this pamphlet's worth $3, but information's worth more than that. So I would definitely recommend that if you get this kit, when you get this kit, read through this really helpful instruction guide as well. It talks about advantages and disadvantages of different mold making materials, advantages of latex, of polyurethane, talk about mold making basics, mold making through time, what is mold making, technical information. Anyway, plus it's got some really great, simple and instructive images as well through this whole thing.
As we're waiting for the 20-minute timer, maybe we could show some of the people the puppets as they are now so they understand some context of what we're making the eyes for.
So, for those of you who have not been following us, we are making a set of Avenue Q puppets. This 15 minutes is about to be up, and I'm about to roll over to the 3-minute timer. But I will say, in our last live, we did go through all the costumes. So you can see all the different costumes and how they appear. We're very pleased with the effect. And we're actually closing in on some of the final details. We also did one where we showed different hair treatments that we showed how we made the hair for Princeton. And then since then, all of the puppets now have hair. And Patrick can take you on a tour.
So we have Lucy here, kind of glam 80s style with that beautiful dress. We have Nikki here. Everyone's sort of in different places and pieces. We have Rod's body, and also, as Sean is mentioning, some of the wigs. We've got Princeton here with his wig on display. Rod with his wig patterned and cut and stitched and ready to be applied in place. We have Miss Thistle here with her wig, that nice little bun in the back. Trekkie, he's had hair for a while now. He was the first one we put hair on. And then, of course, the Bad Idea Bears who don't have a hairdo, but they'll get little stylish trimming probably so that their eyes stick out nicely. Kate Monster here. So that's the eyes that we're going to be casting up today, are her eyes. But her hair was just applied. And we'll be doing some different types of looks with them, depending upon where, what the demands are for that part of the show. But the puppets are coming together. I know you see a lot of crazy pieces and parts and bodies without heads, but very soon they will be being brought over the finish line. In fact, we have some arm rods here which are ready to be installed in some of the characters. And then I can even show you this pile of heads here. Isn't that wild? All these heads with all their wigs pretty much ready to go. So it's hard to believe, but this has been a months-long process, but we are actually coming down to the finish line on our Avenue Q puppets with this important step of the eyes being done. Once the eyes are done, of course, it's on to features, and then at that point, you're talking about doing little styling of the characters, detail work, pupils and eyebrows and things like that.
All right. Thank you for that tour. Thank you, Patrick, for guiding our audience on a tour of where we are so far. So we switched over to the 3-minute timer, and then we're going to do a couple of the 1-minute timers, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Now, I was just reading ahead, the ease releasing agent. This is the next step I'm going to do. So as you can see, this is step 3 in our directions. Again, it wants a light mist of the releasing agent to all surfaces. And if you had a more detailed surface, they would want you to use a brush, like a chip brush, to make sure that you're getting it into all of the surfaces. Now, the reason why is you don't want the silicone to stick into any detail and then tear out, because if it tears out of your mold, then you won't have that nice, clean look that you're going for. So intricate detail and undercuts you want to apply with the brush. I'm not going to be too concerned with the undercuts because a little bit of silicone getting under the mold will just cause some flashing, and I'll just go ahead and cut that off because ultimately the back of this eye is just going to be flat, and as long as it sits flat against the face, you're not going to see that anyhow. So, but if you do have more detail, you want to use that. And then this here will need to dry for 10 minutes. So I know there's a lot of waiting in this process, and we're having to kind of vamp and talk through, but the reason why I wanted to do this as one piece, is so you can kind of see what exactly it takes to do this from start to finish. But like I said, I'm not going to make you wait 6 hours while our silicone cures. We have one all ready to go. So we're down to our last 2 minutes. I realize next time I need 20 minutes, I'll use my 10-minute timer. Although it was fun to watch the orange one go down, wasn't it? And what I would say is, just as a piece of advice, don't rush this process. It's very tempting to get impatient and just go to the next step. But when you're dealing with these types of mixing these types of materials, follow the directions, and it might take a little more time, but it's worth it, because I've honestly really done this once in my life, and by following these simple, easy start instructions, I created a successful mold. I'd also say, if you're doing this for the first time, it's common for people to be like, I'm gonna make this extravagant thing, which is great. That's good to have goals and ambitions, but start simple. Start simple. The nice thing about the eyes is it's obviously gonna demold rather simply, because the shape is the last minute, because the shape is smooth, and also it's flat on the back. So this is a great kit to start with, because of the way the plastic pours in. It's a whole step easier. You don't have to do a three-dimensional mold where you're holding up rubber bands and you got to do like a jeweler's cut to cut it out, and you're trying to get the plastic in, and there's just more steps involved. So that's why I think this is such a great starter kit. And also, you can get familiar with the materials. You don't always have to buy this material as a kit. You might realize, I have all the molds I need, now all I need is plastic. Then you can just go in and say, okay, I just need the bright white liquid plastic, the 2-part. I don't need any more silicone. And also, as you're using these kits, pay attention to the pot time, how much working time you have, and what's the shelf life of the material. A lot of times these materials, once you open them, they're not always going to be as super effective if they've been open for a while. So now I'm going to put my mask back on, because I'm about to spray this, and this is the release agent. So I remember I marked these. This is the blue dot. This is the one for the blue container. This one has no dot. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. I'll go ahead and put the spray nozzle on, and I'm going to apply a light mist of the release agent, which I'll do now. Light mist. And a light mist. I'm going to take this off and reapply the cap so I don't lose any material. Towel here for my gloves. Try to use these gloves more because a little hot today. Trying to swap gloves on a hot day is annoying. This is my 10-minute timer. It's purple. How lovely. So what is a mold release? And why is it important? The mold release, what it does is it creates a thin, you can look, there's like a shiny, almost a waxy layer. It's almost like a wax. And what it does is the silicone will not stick to it. What you don't want to do is have your perfectly sculpted item, you seal it, and then you skip the mold release, because then it would be a real pain to come back 6 hours later and think, I got this perfect mold that I'm going to pull, and then you pull it only to discover that you didn't put the mold release on and it's sticking, and that silicone will stick, and you could ruin the master. So that's why I say, even though I've done this multiple times, I still do it with the instructions right in front of me, and I'm going to say, okay, here's the next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare for step 4, and that's going to be using our component A and component B. So what you'll need is a few things. Now this says stir well before using. Stir well before using. Do that. What I noticed when I opened these yesterday, there was some separation in the material, and so you really want to stir it to make sure that you don't have any separation whatsoever. So actually, before this, while this is curing, we're going to go ahead and do that to make sure this is all ready to use. Now, make sure you have a spoon for each because you don't want to contaminate your, your bottles. So let's start here with the pink. One of these is more viscous. I forget which one, but we'll discover that. So I'm going to just use this spoon. I've already opened this and used some of the materials, which is why it's not full. But I'm really getting down to the bottom. I'm stirring. I'm making sure that I have a well incorporated part A to work with. And in this process, you'll be in a lot of stirring. That's the nature of it. All right. So that is well mixed. Looks like Pepto-Bismol, but it's not. And you can just throw that spoon away. So part A has been stirred. Now we go ahead and stir up part B. This is the blue side. So this is the one that's less viscous. Part A is more viscous. You can almost use a longer spoon or even a wooden dowel would work. And my goal is to use up the silicone on these two molds because these are the last two eyes that we need to mold for this powder making process. You can see how this is a little less viscous. I'm going to throw that away. And I'm going to seal it. Okay. Need my gloves. So you have your well stirred materials. Then you need 3 containers. So I'm going to use these cups. You need a mixing container where both component A and B are going to be mixed into. And you need measuring containers. The nice thing about these cups is they have these lines at the bottom, and I'm kind of using that as a measuring line. One thing I noticed about this kit is you want it to be as close to half and half as possible, but you don't have to be exact. You try and be exact, but you don't have to be exact. I found I've had good success, and I'm sort of eyeballing it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this a little smaller. You can also get smaller Dixie cups or whatever. I just went ahead and bought one size because I knew I could just cut them down to size just because it was just easier. I didn't know how small or how large I would need the other cups to be. Okay, so that's what these jump screws are for. So when I pour it in, I'm probably going to use this line as a measuring line, and we'll see how much of each component we can get. This mold is a little higher, so I'm not necessarily going to try to fill it all the way up. I might just have it be enough, because again, what I'm trying to do is stretch all the silicone to complete our mold making process, which is these 2 molds. So I've got these 2 cups, which I'm going to put the components into. And then I'm going to pour it into this cup. And I'll need another spoon to mix. And you'll see how it mixes, starts from, pink, blue, and as you stir, it will finally mix into a solid purple. Okay, so according to the instructions, you have 30 minutes of pot time before it's not useful anymore. So even though it takes 6 hours to cure, once it gets to a certain point, it's not useful anymore. So our next step is going to be step 4, and it says measure equal amounts of, what do they call this? Umu 30, trademark. A and B into the measuring cups. We move on to step 5. We're going to combine A and B into a mixing container. We're going to mix thoroughly. They say for 3 minutes. Oh, look, here's my 3-minute timer. Mix thoroughly for 3 minutes. And then they want you to scrape the side, scrape the bottom of the container to ensure a good mix. No color streaks indicates the material is mixing well. Very important to scrape the sides and the bottom because, like I mentioned, the pink is more viscous. So you want to make sure that you're getting all of that thicker material and the thinner material all mixing together, because you want a nice consistency, and you also want it to have, you know, the structural integrity. And if you got a bad mix, it won't be. Could be too hard, too soft. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're fully incorporating all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get started here. I'm going to pour part A into this container. And I realize this is still drying, but I can do this while that cures. All right. So pouring part A. Here it comes. I'm going to see if I have enough to go all the way up to that line. Like I said, my goal is to use the rest of this kit because I hate to have material that we're wasting, and if it just sits around in the shop without a purpose, it might not get used. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other spoon away, which is fine. I got another spoon. Just going to scrape all this material out. I want to get all of it as much as I can. Alright. Set that spoon down. I'm going to go ahead and turn this bottle upside down and see if I can coax some more of this material to come out. Okay. So that's getting ready for part A. And then I'm going to pour an equal amount of part B. This one pours a lot easier. Okay. It looks delicious, but I guarantee you it is not. Use another spoon. I'll just scrape some of this extra material out. Put this lid on and then stand it upside down and see if I can get more to come out as well. Let's see if I can get it. Alright, let's see if I can get any more. Waste not, want none, right? There we go. Let's get all of that ooey gooey. All right, so that's that. A little bit left in here. The perfectionist slash cheapskate in me wants me to get every ounce out. All right, that's all right. We'll just have to live with the fact that we're not going to get every ounce. Well, maybe that's driving some of you crazy. Secretly driving me crazy. All right, this is gonna be good. Okay, that's the pink. Put that spoon away. Put this cap on. Set this down. Now our mold release timer is up. And we'll save this for another day. All right, so as you see now, we have equal components of pink and blue. Dry my hands. Okay, going right back to the instructions, we already completed step 4, measure equal amount. That's what we have here. Now we're going to do step 5. We're going to pour those into this cup, and we are going to stir until it becomes completely purple. No ribbons of color. And they say stir for at least 3 minutes. So I'll set that once I start stirring. Get a little mixer, clean mixer now. Okay, let's put in component A and B.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go ahead and probably scrape the material out, even using my mixing spoon to scrape, just to make sure we're still getting equal amount. Okay, I think we'll take a little more scraping, like a bubble gum texture, stretchy bubble gum. So, I'm gonna get the rest of this blue out with my mixing spoon. Okay, put these in the trash. Now here's the fun part. We're gonna turn this over. I'm gonna mix for 3 minutes. And remember to scrape the sides, scrape the bottom. You want to get it all and totally incorporated until you don't see any ribbons of color. You see, if I were to stop now, I can see these ribbons of color. I'm scraping the sides and fully mixing. I'm watching that timer. Minimum for 3 minutes until it's fully incorporated. I'll preview the next step, which is step 6. And they want you to pour the silicone slowly. And they want a long, thin stream. Now, what that does is guarantee that every single part of your item that you're molding is covered with this mixture. If you pour it too fast, it's possible that it could be an air bubble that gets in there, and you don't want that to happen, because you know, if, like I said, it'd be a shame to wait 6 hours and to open your mold and discover that there was a flaw in it, and you've used this material, and now you have to go back to square one. That would be, I would say, rather disappointing. All right, so I'm mixing. 3 minutes seems like a long time when you're mixing. It's harder than it looks. But I do want to make sure it's getting fully incorporated, where we're getting that solid purple color. By the way, the fact they designed this to mix pink, blue into purple was brilliant. I'm imagining those colors are not native to those materials, but it's a really great way for beginners. And again, this is only the second or third time I've done this. The first time was just a few days ago. To know that yes, it's working, it's mixing, it's incorporated. And then even when you have it in this mixed state, you have 30 minutes to use it. That's the pot time. That's what they call it, pot time. All right. Almost done with the 3 minutes here. Nice thing about this material, no heavy fumes, practically has no odor whatsoever. So that's nice. All right, so that's our 3 minute of mixing time. So now I'm going to pour over the mold in, like they said, long ribbons. I'm going to start with this one here, since that's the one we got to see from start to finish. So it's going like this. And do it slowly. I want to get all those bubbles out. There we go. It's actually very satisfying to watch these ribbons. It's almost like an ASMR. This is another step, not to rush. You don't want to dump it. Pour it very slowly. Let's say long, thin ribbons. You're not getting any bubbles. You're filling every portion of your mold with the silicone. You might get in close and look at this. It's pretty fascinating to see these ribbons fall like ribbon candy.
Now, isn't there a tip where you actually don't pour on the item itself, but on on the side of it? That way.
Didn't say. Slowly over the model. And that's what I used, those instructions, and it worked out perfectly. And there is 6 hours of cure time, so it's pretty. All right, so that's going to be good coverage for that. I'm hoping I have enough to cover this one, at least enough. So we'll try to get this one as well. So again, we're doing these ribbons. Trying to get it. No, don't glop. That's going to glop. Oh well. All right. Little ribbons, thin. And it's slowly filling in every part of that surface. So just to give you an idea of how much one casting kit will get you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and no, there are 7. So I got 7 molds out of one casting kit, and I think that if I hadn't made the first one so large, but again, it was first outing with this.
We have a comment here.
We'll go further.
This says, it's best practice to pour the silicone away from the model in an empty space and let it slowly envelop the thing you're making a mold of.
All right. There you go. They should add that to their instructions. But there you go. You heard it live from a helpful participant in this little online video, live video, that if you pour it away from and let it slowly envelop, that is a very effective way to get clean coverage. All right, so I'm getting down to the bottom of this. I'm going to grab my spoon and scrape some of this in because I really want to make sure we get this final mold. Well, I don't want to buy a new kit just to get one more mold done. Whoa, here comes some big drops.
And then also, but some silicones and resins are great at being bubble free, mostly the slow cure ones, which can give time for the bubbles to rise and escape.
Yes, good. Now this is definitely a long, cure. This is not quick cure. 6 hours. They say 6 hours minimum. So all I do is I just set it and then don't even look at it till the next day. Well, that has more than 6 hours to cure. All right, just scraping the last bits out of here. Okay. Don't want to waste anything. All right. Okay. See if I can get any more of this out of here. I would love to. Use every last drop. So this is a technique I learned with plaster mold making, and it's probably not as important with silicone, but I like to give it a few taps. Helps it just to kind of flatten out and encourage any bubbles that may be there. Here are some rising to go ahead and rise to the surface, because ideally we don't want those bubbles in there. So that's that. So that is our. So now these two are going to sit overnight. So we're finished with these. But the good thing is, for all of you, is I already have this one, which has sat overnight. It's already cured and ready to go. So first thing I'm going to do, clean up my gloves here. So you let it sit for 6 hours. We're advancing time. 6 hours later, and now we're ready to see what we got here in our little mold. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start breaking away the cardboard, which is very satisfying, I must say. So you break the cardboard away. I'd say pretty much anything involving silicone is very satisfying. Just is. All right. Those are the sides. And then we're going to go ahead and break away the bottom here. There we go. So there's the bottom. Here is my original buck that I glued down. And the nice thing is I can just remove this. It's just stuck down with hot glue. So I can just remove this. You can see a little bit of a silicone I got under, but that's just easy to break away. And then that is still a perfectly usable eye bought for vacuum forming or molding again. So now I want to check my mold. I noticed a little bit of this flashing here. Now when I fill it up, I'm only going to fill it to the rim anyway and let it be flat on top, but I still don't want that flashing. So I can just go in here and just trim it out and just clean it up like so. Okay. So now we have our molds made. So we have 4 of them that we're going to be working with today. I had a 5th one over there, which I'll show you. But since this character only appears once, I mean, there's only one version of this character. We don't need to run another one. This is Thistle. So her eyes have already been run, so I'm just going to not run them because I don't want to confuse myself. We're not doing this today, but when eventually I do the Trekkie mold, I'm going to actually mix a little of this tint in it, the yellow tint, because I can use the yellow tint to tint the plastic. So his eyes will come out yellow plastic. I don't have to paint them or anything. They'll just come out of the mold as yellow plastic. So we're not doing that today, but that's something else that you can do. Okay. I have another piece of cardboard just to try to keep my work surface clean. So if all I wanted was something that resembled this, and I didn't need to have the post on the back, then I could just pour the plastic in, and I would be done. However, I'm going to show you how we embed the. Oh, by the way, so that demolding, that was step 7, where it says remove the cured rubber from the container, and then we did step 8. We removed the original mold from the mold, and then 9, the mold captured perfect detail and is ready for casting. And now we're ready for casting. So this is step 1. You want you to make sure the mold is level on a level surface. Very important because essentially the back of the mold is going to be flat. Okay? Like the silicone that we used, the bright white casting plastic is also 2 parts. And we're going to do this in 2 parts. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay down a layer of plastic that's enough for me to eventually glue this to. And I'm also going to roll the plastic while it's in liquid form around the mold to create a slush coat around the entire surface of the interior of the mold. The reason why is eventually we'll be sandwiching this in with a second pour of plastic. And what I don't want to have is a line where those 2 plastics meet. Of course, you can always sand it out really easily, but it just feels like this would be a good way to potentially avoid having a line. Okay, like before, I'm going to grab 3 cups. like before, I'm going to use my junk scissors and I'm going to cut 2 of them to size. Again, you can use smaller cups. It's just easier to grab 1 container of cups and cut them to size. Okay, so just from trial and error, by doing this a couple of times, I realized, again, I can use this, like the very bottom rim of this cup as the measuring. And that's how little I'm gonna do in this first run. I'm just gonna fill the very bottom, and then this will be my mixing cup, and I will need a clean mixing spoon. All right, so again, part A. This also says stir well before using, so let's make sure we do that. So I take the lid off, and I want to stir well.
And I just want to mention, I saw some questions come in. We will be taking questions at the next time in which we're waiting for things to cure. We have a little time. So rest assured, I see those questions come in, and we will be addressing them.
Yes, we will have a 20-minute window of time where we can take questions. I'm going to do that twice, because we're going to let this plastic cure 2 times, because we're doing 2 pours. Right now I'm just mixing each component thoroughly. Okay.
I'll also say, if you have questions, then feel free to put them in the little message, and we'll get to them when the time comes.
All right, thanks for that. So I'm going to pour half, whatever quantity I want, but I'm just using that line. So that's the first. I'm going to put the lid on, yellow. Oh, how clever, the lid's the same color. You don't want to accidentally put the wrong lid on. You don't want it activating in the container. And then half in the blue. Oops, a little more. And all that means is I'll pour a little more yellow, because I want to get that half and half. So this is quick plastic. It's like 20 minutes to cure. It also says it gets hot as it cures. I haven't tested it. I trust them. So we're on step 2. Measure equal parts A and B, and we're going to mix it thoroughly in this container. Scrape the bottom like the other one. Scrape the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to pour A and B in. That's not as viscous, so it pours faster. Throw these away. And they don't say a time limit, but this stuff works really fast. So, and it's easier to stir and mix because it's more of a liquid compared to the silicone. Now for starters, I'm just going to pour enough to fill in the bottom and a little slush coat around the side. So that's stirred up. And I'm going to just carefully pour, slowly, enough for the bottom. And then I'm going to do a slush coat. So I'm just going to maneuver this around so the plastic works all the way up to the edge of the mold. Oops, this we're a little out, but that's fine. I can just wipe that up. So you can see how once you have your molds made, this process gets going pretty quick. And it'll look the same every time. All right, I'm going to add a little tiny more to this because I spilled some out. I have some extra in here. It is what it is. That just needs to dry. All right, 10 minutes. So it'll be 20 minutes total for this process. So Patrick, have any questions come in so far?
Yeah, we'll get some questions here. Do you want to pour that extra into the thistle eye you have, or does that not matter? No?
Yeah. Well, no.
All right, so
Let it go.
let it go. All right, it's always tempting to use every last drop of every piece of material.
Yes.
Great. So we have some questions here. Great. So here's a question about eyes in general,
By the
puppet
way,
eyes.
I want to hear that question, but you can see here it's already starting to cure. It gets this white cloudy appearance. That is how quick this stuff cures up. So you can literally watch it curing before your eyes. What other questions?
Great. So how would you make an eye with an attachment that would go right where the puppeteer's hand is, and you don't want to have a nut or a bolt or anything protruding and rubbing against the hand or distorting the face? Like, for example, something without much foam, like a sock puppet type head.
Great. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. We're using this process because of the size of the heads and where the hand is going to be. But if you want it to be a lot smaller, eyes can be glued on, they can be taped on. You can, if you have material around, you could sew them on. If you had a lid on top, you could use the lid to sew it into place. So there's lots of different ways to attach an eye. I would say if I was using this plastic and I wanted to glue it on, probably what I would do is I would rough up the back, apply a layer of glue, let that totally cure, and then glue it in place. Yeah, so those are some different options for you.
All right, next question here. Hey there, greetings from Berlin, Germany.
Hello.
I love your puppets and your work and all the stuff you do. Thanks for everything.
Oh, thank you, and hello in Germany.
Here's a question. How many castings do you reckon you get from the kit?
That's a great question. So we're discovering that now. So now I know that this kit, this AB, got me these molds plus those two plus the additional one over there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 molds of this size. That was perfect for the cast of characters that we're making, especially since some of these eyes actually double. So like Lucy's eyes are the same as the bear eyes. So that's how much we got out of one kit. And then we're going to find out how many eyes we're going to get. I mean, the nice thing is this material goes a lot further because what we're making is a lot smaller. So the silicone mold is a lot of material. But as far as the actual eye, the amount of actual plastic being used is relatively small. I would say that this stuff doesn't expand at all. So you pretty much have an idea of how much you're getting. I would say if you go back to the instructions, you can see we've already done step 3, which is slowly pour the liquid mixture. And now we're on to step 4. Allow the resin to cure 20 minutes. Caution, smooth cast becomes very hot. Like I said, I've taken their word for it. I haven't tested the theory. And then step 5, let the casting cool 20 minutes after removing it from the rubber mold. Now, we're not going to have to worry about that because it is going to sit in the mold for another 20 minutes as we put the backing in. But for best practices, you would want to allow it to cool and then let it sit an additional 20 minutes before we remove it.
We have another tip here.
Yes.
Someone wanted to mention that Reynolds Advanced Materials in Burbank has always been super knowledgeable and helpful, and they've learned a lot about molding and casting puppet items from the people that work there.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Any of those resources that you can find, a lot of this stuff is get it and try it. And that's a lot with puppetry. That's been our experience in the past. Like, how did we do this? I don't know. Let's try it. And you don't know until you try it, but also having those resources, whether it's that booklet or finding people at your local Puppeteers Guild or Puppeteers of America that you can call on. Hey, now you know us now. You could always drop questions here on this video. We try to answer as many as we can. Try to answer all of them, honestly. And we're usually pretty open to helping folks with any questions they may have. I want to preview some of the materials we're going to be using in the next step. So again, if this was your eye and you want it to be flat, like the one person writing in was asking about attaching it without a spoke in the back, then you would be done. You would just let this cure 20 minutes, wait another 20, and then pull it out, and your eye would be done, and you're ready for the next run of plastic. But we're going to do an additional step, and this is where Our super glue comes in handy. Our zip kicker, in case you're impatient, and like super glue doesn't glue fast enough, dry fast enough. And then we're going to use these nylon bolts. We buy these usually in bulk. Just buy them from the hardware store or online. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting these in to each of these eyes, gluing them in place, then mixing up a second coat of plastic, and then laying that plastic on. And then I'll show you how we can demold them and then do some of the cleanup work after that. But we do have a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions or they've done this before, they have some tips, I'd be happy to hear anything that folks out there have to say.
Another question here. Someone says this is so cool to watch. Slightly off topic with this process, but it is about Avenue Q.
Okay.
Why do we give Trekkie Monster fur hair instead of the ostrich feathers? And also, why'd you give him the fleece glove hands as opposed to fur hands?
A couple of reasons. One, the fur hair is just more robust. Feathers, they break down over time, and it's very time consuming to make fur hair. And a lot of decisions we made was keeping in mind that this was going to be a stage, these are stage puppets, and from 2 rows back, an audience member isn't going to know if it's fur, feathers, or 3D printed, or yarn, who knows. So we're keeping that in mind. We're being practical. And then also regarding his gloves, are his hands Yeah, they are fleece. Basically because his long fur is machine stitched, and machine stitching long fur is a pain. And we just wanted something that would be make the manufacture of them easier. And again, from an audience point of view, most people aren't going to be like, "Oh, his hands are supposed to be fur." So, yeah.
Here's a question someone has again about our Avenue Q puppets, which is what we are making right now, eyes for our Avenue Q puppets. They want to know.
Just to give a little reset for folks who are joining. This is what we're making. This is the eye. This is the eyes that we're making. And the cool thing is, you guys are going to stick around. I'm going to show you. I'm going to put in a pair of eyes into Rod, into Princeton, and you'll see the process how we actually install these eyes. So not only are we going to make these, we're also going to install them into the puppet. So definitely stick around for that. So what was that question?
Question is, do you need a license to make and rent out Avenue Q puppets?
So the puppets that we rent are only to licensed productions of Avenue Q. So MTI, Music Theater International. They're the ones that license the show. And so the only guidance we've received from them is you only make the puppets for licensed productions of Avenue Q. And it's no different than the Audrey 2 puppets that we make that have been out on the market for years and years, and many people. In fact, a lot of theaters will make their own puppets, or they rent directly from MTI. Lots of different ways to get puppets for your Avenue Q production. I mean, really, what I would do if my high school was doing Avenue Q is I would be jumping up and down and saying, I want to make the puppets, I want to make the puppets. And I would hope that in my high school production, we would just make our own puppets. Because for me, as a young puppeteer in high school, that would have been the joy for me.
Here's a question. Will the super glue and kicker react to the silicone in any way? Will this affect the life of the molds?
So the kicker and the glue will not actually touch the silicone. It's only going into the plastic. And I'm going to guess that no, it will not have a long-term effect on the life of this mold.
If anyone else has any questions about this process or the puppet building process, go ahead and put those in the little chat here, and we'll be happy to address as many as we can.
So if you were paying attention to when we started pouring the plastic, it went in totally clear. Now you can see it started turning cloudy, and now it is white. So according to our timer, we're halfway through the first drying process. And I know this is somewhat time-consuming, a lot of waiting, but the nice thing is when you're into a puppet building process, I could be going away, I could be making ears right now, I could be stitching hair, I could be doing lots of other things. But there we go, halfway through. But since we're just focused on the eyes, I end up doing some waiting, but that's okay. It's eventually you get 4, and then you get 4 more, and you get 4 more, and it really starts to compound the number of eyes that you have. Pretty soon you're like, oh my gosh, I have so many eyes.
Another question here, and this I know this gets to what our next step will be.
Yes.
Have you tried casting the bolt in the resin before it cures, like sticking it in while it's still liquid?
So I haven't tried that, and the reason why I didn't want to do that is I didn't want the bolt to sink down and potentially, be visible at the front of the eye, have like a sharp spot or something. So that's why I decided the best way is to do a 2-part process. I know it's more time consuming, but it really lets me carefully glue down each spoke before that layer of plastic. And I've sort of like, I haven't like jammed on it, but I've tested this to the point that you'd have to really want to break it for that to come off. And normally the way our eyes are done is we'll take these bolts and we'll just zap them down to the vacuform, and those don't even come out. So now it's glued and embedded in plastic. So I don't think that's going anywhere. So this is our last 10 minutes of this curing time of the plastic. Eventually, and I'll show you how we do this, we'll pull them out, and you'll see like this one came out, but it has this, flashing on it. Because then what you need to do is you'll take them out and you'll clean them up. And I'll show you that step as well. These are some ones that I pulled earlier today. And once I go ahead and get these bolts in, I can show you the next step, which is how to clean them up. Then we'll take these out, clean them up, and then I'm going to take the finished sets of eyes we have, find the corresponding puppet, and show you how we install those eyes and put them right into the puppet. We would need more washers. That's one thing. We can cut more washers. All right, let's stick them in.
If here's another question here. Love the shirt. Did you guys also make the walk-around characters for kidding, like Astronauter and Snagglehorse?
So those we did not make. That was another puppet builder, mascot costume maker. We did those. But yeah, we so you recognize I'm wearing a kidding shirt. That's cool. This is actually this was the crew shirt that the set direction team
Set decoration
team created. And what's cool about it is it's almost like we worked on we worked on Mr. Pickle's Puppet Time. It says Mr. Pickle's Puppet Time, set direction team, Columbus, Ohio, since 1988. So it was meant to be like as if we were crews on the show within a show. Anyway, we had quite a bit of overlap with the set decoration department.
Well, tell the folks which characters we did make if they happen to see that show.
Okay, I'll say we worked with the set decoration team because they actually rented puppets and such from our shop they used to decorate the shop within the show. And then the ones we did make, we made like Ennui, we made the Maestro Fermata and the Pickle Nickel Choir, we made Ukulele, Sasquatch, Hopscotch the Sasquatch, Hand and Foot, Side of Fly, Soap Scum for season 2. Yeah, so quite a few of the characters.
And also some one-off characters such as the beavers and the little sandwiches.
Yeah, the beavers.
It was a full cast.
Which we got to perform as well as beavers. And on that show, we were puppeteers also.
Here's a question someone has. Speaking of shirts, have you guys ever thought of making merch such as shirts, stickers, etc. for your followers to buy?
It's funny you say that because we actually were just looking at our Swazzle store. It needs some updating because we haven't really dug into Swazzle for a while. But through our website, Swazzle.com, you can actually check out some of the things we have featuring our puppet characters. But it's funny you say that because we were just toying with the idea yesterday of creating a few different items that people might want to wear, like, a shirt that says whatever. Something fun and clever that has to do with puppetry or puppet making.
And also there was a question I know about the feathers. If that is a technique that people want to use,
Oh, yeah.
let them know about our new the videos we've been sharing.
So someone asked about Trekkie's hair, the feathers. As it happens, we just dropped a really great short on YouTube, and it's all about how to make that feather hair, how to use the ostrich plumes, and how to cut them, how to glue them, and how to put them on your puppet to make a full head of hair using feathers. It's time consuming, but it really is a very interesting, specific, and sort of a magical look. So check out our YouTube shorts. That one happens to be performing rather well. I think a lot of folks are interested in this particular technique. We have not only do we have puppeteers following us, but these techniques could be used if you're a cosplayer, if you make suits of any kind, if you're working with fur, feathers, any of that. Hopefully some of these tips will be useful for you as well. Get ready for your Comic-Con costume, right?
We got an affirmation. Yes, the tutorials you manage would be, yes, all the tutorials you can manage would be great.
Thank you.
Also, love the live setup you've been doing. Just saw your short. It was great.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And we really appreciate the feedback. It definitely encourages us to pop on here and do more of these. We're trying to make sure that each one is presenting something totally different and unique, but also not just limited to puppets. For example, if you saw our one about how to make puppet hair, we made the hair for Princeton. That could be applied to other things, like if you wanted to just make a custom wig for yourself, for example, or for a cosplay, for a costume, for Halloween, for your dog, whatever.
Here's a question. Do you ever do in-person classes in the LA area?
So we have done in-person classes. We have done workshop tours. Nothing that we're doing at the moment, but I would say never say never.
And I want to mention this too, and maybe you can give a plug for it. If people do want to learn more, we should talk about our newsletter that we put out.
Yeah, so if you like the content that you're seeing, we do put out a monthly newsletter, and you can join right from our website just by clicking the subscribe button or perhaps the newsletter button, and you can go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter. We just dropped the newsletter yesterday, and it happens to be all about what we're doing on YouTube, but we'll put little news bits, upcoming things, things we have available, new projects that have been released, things that we can share. So we try to make sure that the newsletter is of value to the folks that are receiving it. So you can always visit our website and sign up for a monthly newsletter.
If we ever were to do a workshop live or otherwise, that would of course be promoted.
Oh yeah.
There.
In fact, just last year there was a thing called NorCal Puppet Fest. I think it's called. Anyway, it was in Sonoma, and we went up and did an in-person workshop about puppeteering. And there were a lot of folks that came to that. That was really fun. A lot of puppet people. It was just basically a one-day puppet festival in Sonoma in partnership with the San Francisco Bay Area Puppeteers Guild. So yeah, we've done those types of workshops. Maybe at a Puppeteers Festival, that would be a fun thing to do, a workshop at a Puppeteers Festival. In fact, speaking of workshops, if you want to experience any puppet workshop, I would definitely encourage that you join the Puppeteers of America, join your local Puppeteers Guild, Google, you can find them, and attend a festival, because at the festivals they have workshops such as this. In fact, many of the puppet building techniques that we still use today, we first learned by attending our very first Puppeteers Festival, which was in San Francisco when we were still in high school.
Another question here. At this stage of your careers, do you ever get stuck on figuring something out? Have you found any good ways to overcome puppet builder's block?
Have you got stuck? Sure. Yeah, we get stuck. We get stuck in lots of ways. Sometimes you're, oh, I wish we had a few more jobs coming in. Oh, how do I complete this? I'm really stumped on this particular puppet. But the only way around is through. So if you're not having work coming in, that's your time to say, okay, we're gonna make some work for ourselves. We want to work on a passion project at this time. If you're really getting stuck on a puppet building technique, reach out to the greater community. Ask a question. Don't be shy. I mean, if you don't ask, you won't learn. So I have no problem just picking up the phone or texting puppeteer friends of mine and say, hey, how would you do this? Or hey, you want to do a project together or something like that. All right, that's our 20 minutes. So now I'm going to go to the next step, which is I'm going to glue these little spokes in, and then we'll have some more time to answer questions.
So if you have more questions, you can write them now, and we'll get to them once that timer starts.
All right, so what I'm going to do, and now I prefer, they call this ultra gel control. They have different types of these super glues. What I found over the years is the gel gives me the most control. I also found out that these containers do not last very long. There's not much glue in there, but you don't need much. So I put a somewhat generous amount of the gel glue. And then, without driving myself crazy, I try to make sure it's as centered as possible right onto that plastic. So again, a little bit of gel glue. And it's going to center it on the center of that eye. A dollop of glue. I'm kind of using my pinky and other hand to make sure my hand is going down steady. And then finally, this one. Okay. There we go. Seal the Loctite. We're done with that. Take my zip kicker. Just a little quick spurt. There we go. I'll put that aside. So now these are all dry. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the final casting step. So I'm going to grab 3 new cups. You guys should know this by now. I'll cut 2 of them to size. Again, you can buy small cups. Do it however you want. If you want to really be conscientious, you could recycle cups, yogurt cups, applesauce, things like that. Popcorn buckets. All right, so again, A, B, 20 minutes. So I've already stirred it, but it's a good reminder to have. You want to stir it up. So now I'm going to mix. I'm going to pour A. I'm going to go up to that first line again of the cup. A little over it, because I don't want to have, at this point I'd rather have a little more than a little less. That's A. Part B, which has already been stirred, but if it hasn't been stirred, make sure you stir it. A little more B, so I'm just going to add a little more A. Again, the nice thing about this is you don't have to get out measuring scales and everything. You just kind of eyeball it. And I had great success with that. All right. Mixing spoon and a third mixing cup. I'm going to pour components A and B into the cup. Throw those away. A lot of trash. Sorry, for all you environmentalists. It's just a process that creates a lot of garbage. So mixing thoroughly. Again, you have much less working time because this is a quick cast plastic. Pull that away. Now I'm going to pour it. I'm going to try not to get it on the spokes because I don't want to get plastic on those spokes. I'm just going to pour gently, carefully. I'm going to go right up to the surface. Boop. I'm going to go a little over. That's fine. Pouring right up to it. Good. which is good. I'm going to put a little more in that second one, so I want to make sure the bolt is fully encased in it. That one encased it. And I'm going to go a little more on this one. If it comes over the mold a little bit, that's fine, because I'll be able to clean that up. All right. So now, this one's not quite embedded. I can feel this resin getting hot in the cup. Chemical reaction. It's coming over a little bit. I'm not concerned. I'll be able to clean that up, but I'm just going to take some of this excess off. It will clear from the mold pretty easily anyway. All right. I'll give you an example of what it's like to clean it up. Okay. 10 minutes. Okay, now I'm going to take my gloves off. We're done with the mixing and the pouring portion of this demonstration. And what I want to do is I'm going to get into the next step, which is how to clean them up after we demold them. So we're going to do that now. So these are ones that I've already pulled from the mold. And you can see, like, that's going to happen to this one, or this extra plastic's going to come off, and it's kind of messy. So all I need is sandpaper. You can see it already, it's curing. Like, it's already turning white. Like, that's how fast. I have a feeling, this is why I didn't want to, let me say it this way, this is why I didn't want to stick the thing in, because you can see how your working time, it suddenly, you lose a lot of working time. So that's why I'm doing this two-step process. So got my jump scissors. I got a big piece of flashing like this. I want to remove it. I can just take my scissors and just cut off some of those big chunks. I can get in here with this blade that we used earlier, and I can also, trim it down like so. Another thing you can do is get in here with a Dremel, and you can Dremel it. But for our purposes today, I'm going to use sandpaper. So I'm just going to take the sandpaper, and I'm going to sand off the plastic flashing. So yes, it does take a little bit of time to clean up, but it's definitely worth the effort. Let me go ahead. I'm going to grab a Dremel just so I can demonstrate that technique. So in case anyone wants to use that technique, I can also, honestly, in fact, let's try this first. I'm going to take this over the sander. So if you have a good amount that you want to remove, I can just take it to the sander here. Way to do it. Takes that off, and then I can sit back down with my sandpaper and just remove any of the remaining material.
While you're sanding, there was a question that we could talk about
Yes.
when you have time.
Sure.
It says, you're huge proponents of the Puppetry Guild. Would you mind diving into what the experience is like for those that don't really know what it is or what to expect?
So what is the Puppetry Guild? The Puppetry Guild, I would say, is more like a club. So when you hear guild, you might think, oh, it's like a professional organization. It is, and there's a treasurer, and there's a secretary, and they have monthly meetings and all that, and the president. But really, it's a club. It's a club of people. Some are professionals, some are beginners, some are teachers, some are enthusiasts, and they get together and they talk about puppets and they watch shows, and it's really fun. They have special events. I know out here in California, the LA Guild, there's the Orange County Guild, and the San Francisco Guild of Puppetry. All three of them are active and have a variety of different events. I moved on to the finer sandpaper to clean this up.
And the guilds are chartered through a bigger organization called the Puppeteers of America.
Yeah.
All of which people can join. The Puppeteers of America puts out, I think it's a quarterly magazine, which is really great, or a newsletter. And local guilds also put out their own different publications and outreach as well, and they have meetings and workshops and classes.
I think there's still a San Diego guild also. Anyhow, so this is one eye, all finished. You can see it is the other matching pair to this one. Alright, so this one, I'm going to clean this one up now. So again, I have a little bit of flashing. So first I'll just take the scissors, we'll clean that up, get a much extra. Come on back to the belt sander. I thought I'd use the Dremel, but the belt sander was so effective that I'm just going to use the belt sander. Clean it up. Come back here, start with my rough sandpaper. Now ultimately a lot of these eyes have lids and lashes and all sorts of things. So you want it to be clean, but if you see like some hairline that's driving you nuts, no one's gonna see it. Even if it was on camera, to be honest. Alright, and then I can take my fine sandpaper and just do a nice cleanup on the whole thing.
There was another question that came in.
So here's another one finished. Hold that question for a second. I'm
Great.
going to do one more sanding. But if you do have questions, go ahead. This is a good time for you to send them in now as I'm going back and forth between sanding and cleaning up and waiting for these to cure. So again, you have a piece like this. You can see how it's just, you know, a little bit of slop over the back of the mold. So I just take these junk scissors. Look at this. They're right-handed scissors. I'm a lefty using them. What a disgrace. Are these both? Nope. They're right-handed. That's the thing when you're lefty. You actually get used to using right-handed scissors. You wonder, why are scissors so uncomfortable? And you get a pair of left-handed scissors and go, oh, because they weren't making them for me. So I cut them off with scissors. I'm going to use the Dremel so I can demonstrate. I think it's a good technique if folks want to use it.
Great. And while you're getting the tool, the question was, will Rod, Lucy, and Bad Idea Bears have 2 arm rods as tradition or 1 arm rod like Princeton and Kate Monster for simplicity? Also, will you be making the purpose boxes?
So we're not making boxes. People ask about those, but honestly, the expense of shipping the boxes doesn't make it worth it. And as far as the rods, how we rod the puppets, we're going to rod them how they're traditionally done, just because that's how folks are used to doing the show. But this is a Dremel. I love the wireless one. So I'm going to show you how you do this if you want to get some of the flashing off. So I'm going to sit this way. So you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just working this around. This is another thing that you can do to clean these up after they come out of the mold. So instead of using a belt sander, you can use this. You can also just sit here and use sandpaper. That works too. If you're at the dentist.
While you're dremeling, we got another question here.
Yes.
Have you thought about...
I'm going to switch over to sandpaper.
Great. Have you thought about getting a resin printer, or would you prefer the more hands-on physical process?
I haven't considered getting a resin printer. We actually have some puppet making friends of ours that have the whole 3D printing thing. We know some folks who have a resin printer, and then people use the plastic
Filament.
There's filament, and then there's like essentially like plaster. I guess that's resin. So we usually just call on them and say, hey, can you print something for this project? But we've definitely toyed with the idea of getting a 3D printer. But for now, we're very happy to, have folks we can call upon. In fact, we're having someone we've worked with on quite a few projects. In fact, one of the main things she did for us was the goggles for Waffles and Mochi. And she's a very talented builder, painter, and also awesome cosplayer. So she's making some goggles for, she's made the goggles for Waffles and Mochi, and then we have her make things for us occasionally.
Question about being left-handed.
Oh yes, my sweet spot.
Was it hard for you to adapt to the predominantly right-handed way of puppeteering?
Good question. And the answer is a secret. It's not hard. And here's why. It's like left-handed people always learn where to sit at a restaurant. You just know, I sit on this side. If there's a group scene that is not necessarily specific, like it's a show where, it's a signing where you go, it's very easy for you to know where to stand if you just stand on the end. So while the right-handed people are stacked in, you can just smooth in, whoop, just right here, you come on the end and do your thing. Now, there are going to be adjustments. So we work on other types of projects. You always have to figure out, everyone's standing this way and I'm standing that way. So it is an adjustment, but I haven't found it to be an impediment. All right. In fact, another great left-handed puppeteer, Mike Quinn. Mike Quinn, another left-handed puppeteer. So we have 10 minutes left until these are ready to come out, and that's going to be a very satisfying experience. I'm going to take this back to the sander and take the flashing off of this one. Alright, that one was pretty clean to start with. Again, I'll start with my rougher sandpaper. One thing I would say about this plastic is one thing I love about this whole kit, this whole Smooth On kit, is how user-friendly everything is. Like, this is a great kit to start with. Even if you're not making puppet eyes, maybe you just want to make something for your Comic-Con costume or something, or Christmas ornaments, whatever. This is a really great one to use. The whole thing is so user-friendly, and I found it to be really easy. And no, we're not sponsored by them. We don't get any money from them. I'm just being honest about my experience with this kit, and it's been fantastic. Okay. So let me grab. I need all of them. Okay. I'm going to close up these instructions. We're finished with those instructions for now. Alright, so these are still curing. There are a few minutes left on that. And while those are curing, I think it's always wise to mark your eyes so that you don't get yourself confused. So we know this is going to be a rod. I put an R on the back already. So this will be R. That's a pair of rod eyes, already done. The larger ones, the big saucers, are Nickies. Let's put an N on the back of that one. Nicky, Nicky, Nicky. And he already has a pair on him. So let's see, how many Nicky puppets are there? We have one here, here, three. So we're almost done with all the Nicky eyes, so that's good. Our smaller round circles, these are Princetons. So put a P on the back. And then we have Thistle here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Thistle as an example. I'll show you how we install the eyes while this is counting down. This is our version of Thistle. I think she looks pretty funny. One thing we did, if you've watched our hair video, we are not using any wigs. No wigs, because wigs need a wig stylist. And if you don't have anyone to style the wigs do not look good after just one show. So this is actually a styrofoam ball wrapped with fur, and this is just fur covering like so. And this will all be stitched down. So just so I don't pin myself with a bunch of things, I'm going to take her nose and her brows off. And I want to kind of see where do the eyes go. So I have an idea. I'm going to sort of mark that with this pin. I need to get a pair of sharp scissors. So general scissors you want to have in your shop. You want to have, by the way, this is the mold that those eyes came out of. As far as like general scissors, you want to have like a junk pair that you saw me using today. You want to have a nice pair for fabric cutting, so these are actually left-handed. And then you want like a pair of detail scissors. You can also get into things like curved scissors, and there's all sorts of things you can get into, but that's the general three you want to have. All right, so the next eye is going here approximately. I'm going to just mark it with a pin, and then I'll actually use I'll measure. So I'm right now eyeballing it, to see how we're looking. It's looking pretty good. So I'm going to make the first cut. Like so. And then I'll go ahead and measure from the center seam. So we're about an inch, just shy of an inch and a half. So I'm just shy of an inch and a half. Over an inch and a half. Yeah, just shy of an inch and a half, right around here. All right. Patrick, I'm going to hand this over to you to install these eyes. I just went ahead and put the holes in.
Great. All right, so the eyes we're going to run through. Hello, everyone. I've been behind the camera, and now I'm in front. So, as Sean mentioned, obviously we have these threaded posts on the eyes, and I'm going to make sure we get these looking right. They're oval shapes, but you'll notice they're kind of egg-shaped as well. So there's a part that's a little thinner. I'm going to put that towards center. And what we do is once the holes have been made, you just drive the post into the hole of the puppet. Pretty basic. We're going to pull this through. There's a little dust on this table. We'll have to clean these puppets up when we're done. We're going to pull this post through like so, like that. And then next eye on the other side, like this. Now I know there might be some concern. What if the holes are in the wrong place? What if one puppet's eye is higher than the other? Good news, you can always just make another hole, and you can move eyes up, down, left, right. As long as the holes are pretty much in the same zone of where your eye is going to ultimately live, you're not going to see it. So that's looking pretty good to me. You also have fun with how the eyes are positioned at this point. Because these are ovals, you can infuse a little character depending on what your show is, what your character is like. You can angle the eyes down to kind of give it a kind of maybe angry look, or even a kind of a cute look. It depends on where the pupils go. You can angle the eyes up, like so, and that also gives the character a new sort of look and vibe. But we're going to go down like this, and then once the posts are in, all you do is take your washer or washers, depending on, because sometimes we might need two to make sure we're always in a threaded area, and then you thread the washer on, and then you put your bolt in place. I'm going to do one next to the other so you can kind of see what the difference is. So I've got the washer on, and then I'm going to put the bolt in place just by carefully finding out where that post is, and then finding it there, and then twisting it up as far as it'll go. The nice thing is when you can decide how much your eye is drawn in by using this effect. Sometimes it's nice to have your eye get sort of pulled into the material a little bit. It gives it a nice finished edge, provides a little definition. It makes sure there's no edge that can get caught on anything. Sometimes eyes, especially in theater, can get caught on hair and wigs and things like that. But you'll notice the first eye, it's kind of a subtle difference, but the first eye, because the post is just placed in without being drawn in, you'll notice that it has a kind of a surface look. Whereas this eye, by being drawn in, it really marries it to the fleece. No visible separation or seam at all. You can continue to torque it down as much as you want to create as much of that sort of kind of a eyelid or shape around as you want. So there you go. I'm going to take the bolt off of this, but I just wanted to show you that so you can see how this character is going to look. And when we start applying all of our details, vinyl stickers, eyelids, and things like that, those will be applied on top of the eye. In fact, we want to make sure the eyes are torqued down very tight so they don't rotate at all. But also, this character is going to have a benefit that some of the other characters won't. Because we decided to give her an eyelid, it kind of helps give her some personality. The eyelid itself is also going to be attached to the top of this and the top of that. Now, some people ask, why not just glue all the features on? Why not glue the eyes on? Why not glue the nose on? Why are you setting it in the head like this? Well, once something has been glued onto a surface, it's done. If it's very permanent, it's very permanent. If that's the look that you're going for and you know that it's perfect and never going to change, go for it, but glue on a surface with caution. So we're always looking for ways that we can permanently, quote unquote, permanently attach something, but still make it so that it can be removed. If you watched our recent live puppet making video, we transformed a blank puppet into a pirate character. And using a lot of the same principles, different version of eyes, we use the vacuform, but kind of the same idea. What it shows you is how a puppet with a blank form can become anything. And because we're not committing to gluing things down, we can transform our characters into lots of different things. So there you go. That's how it's going to look. And then once the pupils and eyelids go on, that'll really bring the character to life.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. So now, timer's up. That was our 20 minutes. So now we're ready to demold these. I was testing to see if they were hot, which they're not. That's good. They do say they want it 20 more minutes to cool before demolding, but these are definitely cool enough to handle. All right. Here's the moment we've all been waiting for. We get to actually remove these from the mold. So this I always find a very satisfying process. So here's the first one here. Take it out. There you go. Look at that. There's one eye right there. Very clean. Okay, this one will need a little cleanup, but we can take this out. And then here, you want to get in close so you can see one of these close up. Alright, this one's going to come out now. Look at that. Just like that. And then the final one here comes out like so. It's even satisfying even though it has all that extra. Alright, now I've demoed it. We're going to clean these up and then we're going to wrap up. So again with this one, get some scissors, cut off the flashing.
And as we're in our final stage here, there were a couple of questions that came in, which we can get to.
Great. I'll do any trimming here and I can sand all at once.
Great. Have you ever used the twiling-free contact cement?
We have, and it, from our experience, does not work well. It doesn't really have the, it's not, what I found to be the results to be unsatisfactory.
Yeah. We use contact cement usually in small amounts, always with ventilation, always with gloves and respirators, taking all safety precautions.
All right, I'm going to move over to the sander. I'm going to sand off these flashings. right. Move back over here. There's our sandpaper. Start with the coarse. All right. If anyone has questions.
Yeah, a few more questions came in. Will these puppets have foam brains? Will you install the brain before or after the features are placed? If after, how do you install the brain?
So yes, these puppets will have brains. When we have these eye spokes, what we do, maybe we'll do a video on this, is the way we make the brains is the brain will be a little smaller at the top to make room for the eye spoke, and then another piece of foam for the puppeteer's hand to bump up against. And usually we put a little bit of fleece on those so it feels comfortable on the puppeteer's hands. So the brains will be made to accommodate these spokes. You can also like trim the spokes too, but I've discovered over time that it's once you trim them, it's really hard to get that bolt to go on cleanly, and that's nothing more frustrating than having your hand inside a puppet trying to bolt something that you simply can't see. So that's why we just opt to keep them longer. All right, so this is a Nikki.
Question here. The Lucy wig looks good. Will there be a tutorial on how to make fur wigs like Lucy and Kate?
Yeah, we could probably do that in the future. That's a great idea. Yeah, we didn't do the tutorial making that live just because it needed a lot more workshopping, and I wasn't necessarily sure what the technique was going to be. So I guess you guys could have jumped in and struggled with me, but yeah, that would be, yeah, that'd be a fun thing.
Here we have someone saying hello all the way from Australia.
Hello, Australia.
Young puppet builder and puppeteer, always watching our videos and love the work. Please keep up all the good work.
Thank you. We definitely plan on keeping up all this work that we're doing, and thank you so much for watching. So I'm moving over to the fine sandpaper. Okay. Like so, and this is a Princeton eye. And then we got this one is a rod.
If anyone has any more questions to ask, this would be a great time to throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we will be doing more puppet building tutorials live on YouTube. So if you don't already, please subscribe. And as I mentioned, we do have a newsletter. If you want to learn about what we're doing, what projects we've worked on, things like that, if we have workshops that we're hosting or whatever, go to our website, swazzle.com, and you can find our newsletter button. And we are sending these out monthly now.
Yeah, we really make sure the newsletter has some good, interesting content that you'll be happy to receive in your inbox.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a rod eye. And the last one is Lucy and the Bears. So this would be the one we make the most of. I think there's 5 Lucys. And plus 2 bears. So we need 14 of these total.
One question that I'm sure people have is, what did this smooth-on kit cost?
I don't remember. No, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't super expensive. I feel like a few $100s, but I don't remember. Yeah, I mean it wasn't super cheap, but you know, totally worth it. Totally worth it. All right, and this is a Lucy eye. There we are. Okay. So that is the process. So to recap, this is what we used today. We used the mold making and casting pourable starter kit so that we could make our puppet eyes. And all of the things that it comes with, including the instructions, all of the everything that you need to make a silicone mold and come up with a plastic, original. And and then the few things additional that you need, which I covered at the front of this video. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These two will be ready to remove from their cardboard enclosures tomorrow. I'll be able to run those. And I'm going to start running more of these at the conclusion of this video and see how many puppet eyes I can finish today. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for joining us for this live video. If this is something you like, you can help us out by subscribing to our channel, by liking this video, by leaving a comment, and sharing this video with a friend of yours. If you know someone who is interested in puppetry or who is a maker, who wants to see a step-by-step process on how to do something, pass it along, share it. We really appreciate it. And thank you for spending some time with us, and we'll see you next time in the Swazzle Puppet Studio. Goodbye!